Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Vince McMahon Presents Body Slams and Dropkicks for, crap, this again. Hey, listen, what are you doing here? No, seriously, what the hell are you doing here? You promised you'd stay away. This is part of that agreement. Stay the hell away. Okay, well, you see, I happen to know that Ben Walsh is off drinking his sorrows away, having to deal with the two other idiots who are co-hosting. You want to know something, Hunter? He instantly made me the better co-host of all the people out there. You see now again. Why don't you just head on out, and there won't be any problems? What do you mean? Just that there won't be any problems. It's fine. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Body Slams and Dropkicks, Josh Matthews' favorite podcast in the entire world. So much so that he still can't get the stupid name right. I, of course, am Nathan, your host with the most, and with me, unfortunately, is the man whose opinion is as out of date and trash as. Oh, I'm sorry, this was the Vince McMahon intro.
Yes, it was.
The man whose opinion is as culturally relevant as that of Shawn Michaels, the man who looks at himself every that's mine. The man who is as culturally relevant as William Regal with brass knuckles, the man, the myth, the legend, Dean Connolly.
That's actually the best intro you've ever given me.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, Ben Walsh isn't here today for, I'm going to say, what is the reason of hangover.
Yep, happy hangover day, Ben.
Yeah, happy hangover day. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are seeing this, we are recording this on April 16th, which is Ben Walsh's congratulatory 33rd birthday. So congratulations out there to Ben for making it 33 trips around the sun. It has been an honor to have him as soon as he came onto the show. However, in this case, yeah, he doesn't want to be anywhere near this place. We don't want to be anywhere near him because it's just not going to be fun. Also, please note, ladies and gentlemen, he did not go to a drunk tank. He is perfectly fine and stable right now. So bravo, way to celebrate your birthday right. And speaking of celebrating your birthday, we have the news. So I'm going to start things off with Cash Wheeler on the impact of social media because there's a topic in the news that have gotten everyone in the wrestling community, including us, a little bit divided. And while covering it would be a drop in the bucket of the thousands who are doing it, let's just say a very, very, very popular, very divisive wrestling superstar in the hardcore fan base, who one member of this show has defended quite a lot, is slated to be returning to the company sometime in June. Maybe as part of a rumored Saturday night show, maybe not. We don't know. However, someone who has caught a lot of hate because of this is FDR member and noted friend of this certain hardcore wrestling superstar, Dax Harwood. His tag team partner, as noted by Danhausen as being a guy who's pretty good at wrestling, Cash Wheeler, had this to say around the impact of social media and AEW. Quote, Dax is one of the best people you could ever meet, passionate about wrestling and family, protective over his friends, especially when people don't know everything. He's not afraid to speak up and not do it anonymously. Honest to a fault, we all need to do better to fix this situation. Everyone involved. No fingers pointed. No one is completely innocent. I respect everyone involved and want the best for AEW. I am tired of reading negativity from both sides, fans and wrestlers. Real life is more important. Enough. So, Dean, I have my opinion on this sort of topic, but do you think there's too much negativity in AEW and social media right now for AEW? And if so, how would you try to turn this drama into something positive?
First of all, since since the incident with Punk and the Young Bucks, it just
Yeah.
literally feels like all of AEW has been so negative. Despite the fact that I must admit, I don't actually watch it. I watch AEW on YouTube. I don't watch it on ITV. But I will say one thing: I am more excited for AEW because not so much of all the ex-WWE and Impact guys they have, but just because I actually like it. I'm not going to say I like it more than WWE because that would be a great disservice to Triple H and everything he's done to repair everything that Vince has destroyed. But with one thing about AEW that you and I can both agree on is that there's too much controversy, there's too much backstage politics.
Absolutely.
Is it
110%.
is social media a bad thing for AEW? It would depend. There's people like MJF who try and keep everything as it is. So MJF's kayfabe, which I respect,
No.
which is how it should be. How would I try and turn a drama into something positive? Just do what Vince would do, make a storyline out of it.
So here's the thing. When I wrote this question to you, I wrote it from the perspective of I don't think AEW has done a great job of managing social media at all.
They haven't.
And it goes right to the top. It goes straight to Tony Khan getting into arguments with fans when AEW was in his infancy. It was not okay then. It's not okay now. And while Tony Khan has sort of stepped away from that, which is good, which is what he should have done in the first place, his superstars now are the topic of your hardcore wrestling underground, especially when it comes to the news of a certain hardcore straight edge superstar potentially returning to AEW, maybe as the star of his Saturday show. We don't know. But he's a very controversial figure because of how he left and this whole situation has been. And to an extent, I agree with Cash Wheeler because they do have to do better at handling this situation. But how you do that would be greatly impacting what happens at the top.
Yeah.
Whether or not it is stripping Omega and the Young Bucks of their titles, of their EVP titles, whether it's having Tony Khan have basic social media etiquette, whether having your guys like FTR just take them aside and say, okay, you know the heat you can get, or whether it's like WWE has an entire social media department.
They do need that.
You can, like, wrestlers themselves have their own social media, and it's great because you can impact them, whatever. You also have the WWE corporate side of social media, which is always based around promotion. And from the guys of a lot of WWE ran social media accounts.
Personally, I was going to say, as far as social media goes, every wrestler or every celebrity, doesn't matter who it is, they should have two accounts. One for their own personal one, so business and personal can be kept separate, and obviously a business one where they interact with everyone, but it never sort of mixes between the two. Whereas one's for business, one for personal, because obviously I know, well, everyone knows this. You can actually make your account private or a account private. So your personal one would be for personal access only. They would only accept you if you actually were approved by them. If you were like a fan who wants to come in, you could just say no, not having that. Your business account, you can let everyone in that you want. Doesn't matter who it is. That personally for me is the way forward. I do respect MJF for keeping the whole wrestling thing kayfabe, which is how it should be. That's my own opinion. I know it's a bit old school. It's how it was done back in the day. But I just feel that MJF is probably one of the only people nowadays who's actually got the whole idea of a character nailed.
Yeah.
Bully Ray has as well because he keeps it kayfabe. Whereas we're meant to believe that someone's turned heel, but how come? It's like Goldberg back in the 1990s. He was supposed to be a heel, yet he was doing all these good omens. It's like, that's not how a heel's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, even to your point, say, for example, Danhausen. Danhausen is much like MJF to the point where you actually have to look and do a deep dive on everything he does that is designed to be public-facing media on how many times he's actually broken character. And I believe the total amount since Danhausen first became active has been either 2 or 3. Pretty
Yeah,
damn good.
that's not bad.
And Danhausen does a lot of things. He is managing his own YouTube channel. He's doing a bunch of random appearances, all in character, all great. You would never hear about Danhausen having a social media scandal.
Oh no,
Oh, and 2 of the 3 times he broke character was to announce that someone had passed away, so he's going to be stepping away for a little bit,
which isn't
and
bad.
once to announce his injury.
Which isn't bad. Both aren't
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, those aren't terrible breaches of character. And Danhausen is one of the best social media managers you can find. MJF is one of the best as well. I think it's a delicate line that you walk, though, because people want to see behind the curtain. You know how much FTR has done for this certain hardcore straight edge wrestler, and for people like, say, Edge and Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know how much they've done, and they're noted friends of this person in general.
Yeah.
It would be almost a case in this case of, at what point do fans have to realize that these people are human?
A lot
And
of
that's
people.
yeah, and that to me is where things kind of toe the line, especially right now in this generation, because you can't take back what has been posted on social media.
How many outcries have we had because somebody said something controversial about 8 years ago?
Oh, tons of it.
Yeah. James Gunn lost his director's job as Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because someone found an old tweet and decided to say, right, he should be fired straight away. He got the job back, but that's not the point. I will say something. I'm not a big fan of a lot of some opinions, but what someone said, say 8 years ago, hell, I probably said something 20 years ago that probably pissed off a lot of people. I'm not
I
that
know
same
I
person.
have.
I'm not that same person anymore. I've bloody changed too much. But it's a case of, when do we not even when do we just stop being snowflakes and Karens and just say, right, that was in the past. A lot's happened since then. This person's changed. This person's so we'll say James Gunn. Yes, he's quite controversial as far as comic books go, as in the DCU and MCU. There's probably someone who said James Gunn's a great guy. He's a great director, great fun to be with. Dave Bautista will probably say that, as will Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana. They don't care that it was 10 years ago he said something, because he's changed. They know this, but everyone still wants to make a bit of gossip. I mean, I don't. Hell, I've got enough gossip in my own life without worrying about somebody else.
I think when we go about the snowflakes and Karens route, you're always going to have snowflakes. You're always going to have Karens. Hell, one of the biggest things that you can do is look at the WWE storyline right now: Karen Green and Sonya Deville versus
God.
Raquel Gonzalez and Liv Morgan. All about, sorry, Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. I forgot they changed that name.
I miss her being Raquel Gonzalez.
However, that being said, you've got the Karen enshrined forever in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
You've paired her with the most undeserving heel in WWE. This is great stuff. They aren't going to go away. What matters is we look at it and take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I think anyway.
That's what we would think, but obviously not everyone is as forward thinking as we are.
No, absolutely not. And anyway, here's the next bit of news. Kushida apparently needs his upcoming opportunity against Steve Macklin for the Impact World Championship. And that's actually tonight, by the way. Impact Rebellion is tonight. So Kushida was speaking with Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated, where he called out 3 things that I want to bring to your attention, Dean. Number 1, Kushida hated Canada from training in Scott D'Amore's Windsor Dojo. It's cold, and he did not know English at the time, so any relaxation time he could possibly have was spent out of Tim Hortons. Number 2, Kushida loves Canada from training in Scott D'Amore's Windsor Dojo. It gave him the opportunity to prove himself and carve out a career for himself. And number 3, Kushida views the pro wrestling gods for smiling down on him because of the opportunity to return to Canada and become the Impact World Champion, saying, quote, I've never gotten the top championship. That means you are the face of the company. I want to be the driving force behind the company. I want to bring impact all over the world. So, Dean, I have to ask, does the gold really make you the face of the company? Does the gold make the man?
Does the gold make Josh Alexander the man for the last year?
I didn't think it did. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When you look at, the guy, or what you look at when it comes to being the guy, I think the gold made the man in the 80s, and certainly to some respect in the 90s as well. But a lot of people nowadays are like, give this person the strap and see what they can do with it. So the man is already pre-made. The gold is just the finishing touch.
Yeah.
When you look at someone like a Josh Alexander, I would argue Josh Alexander was already like, I call him the Canadians' inspiration, but he was already going that route when they gave him the gold. When they first took the gold away after that cash in,
yeah,
you look at it and say, okay, how bad does he want it? You're invested in the guy, and then Josh Alexander took it and held that belt for 6, 7, 8 months, and really proved himself and cemented himself. But he was already the makings of the guy beforehand. It's much the same way with Kushida. If you followed his career, he's wrestled pretty well everywhere.
Yeah.
He's had stints in WWE. He's had stints in Japan. And he's working now in Impact back with Scott D'Amore. If you really think that either he or Steve Macklin have got the idea of being the guy, which genuinely I don't know. I'm still heartbroken over the Josh Alexander injury.
Yep, as well.
If you look at either of them and you think they're the guy, or you think they're the thing, they don't need the gold to be the guy.
No.
If you look,
I would say that you said, does the gold make the man? The answer is no. But the thing you could say is the gold is a validation.
Yes.
That company is invested. I would say that's what that means more of. It's like when 3 members of Shield had the title in one night, that was validation on all their parts. Not so much Roman Reigns because nobody really wanted him. So,
but it was validation that the company was there behind him.
It's like when Dwayne and Triple H exchanged titles in the 2000s. They both had the validation of it. Granted, Hunter had a Stephanie in his corner, but at the same time, you couldn't ignore.
Hey! My wins were the most legitimate wins in the history of the world. Don't you try to slander me. I will have you know that Stephanie has won a great majority of my matches for me. Whether or not you see her in the front of house or the back of house whining on my behalf, because I was one of the biggest whiners back in the Ruthless Aggression era. You can have me as the guy because Stephanie McMahon was the woman.
Hunter, can I ask you a question? You know your first World Heavyweight Championship reign?
Yeah.
Did you get it in a match, or was it just handed to you by Eric Bischoff?
Okay. Now, to be fair, first of all, his name is the Bischoff to you. Not Bischoff. Bischoff. There's a difference. The T is silent.
There's another word for him as well, and it rhymes with Jack.
Yeah. Yeah, he had the biggest sack of the industry. As a matter of fact, I told him that right before he handed me the title. I whispered it to him off camera. That just secured his decision. I will have you know. But you could argue, yes, some of my reigns were handed to me, and yes, I did have a connection with my father-in-law and my wife being backstage. So I held a lot of power. But at the end of the day, it was clearly all my accomplishments. You're absolutely right. I was the guy, before the guy. You want to know something? Dwayne looked at me and he said to me, Hunter, you handsome son of a gun who should be in movies and not me. I need to be the guy. So I'm going to take this belt off of you to be the guy because everyone knows that you're the guy. And you're not going to stop being the guy. That's when I said to Dwayne, you know what? Absolutely. People can say that Sean is better, or that Taker's better, or that you're better, and then Dwayne says, "Excuse the Rock," and then I say, "I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin's better." But at the end of the day, you're still the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
All
like
right.
when Austin won the title, that was a validation because he won. Was it? He won King of the Ring the same year.
Well, he won
The year
King of the
before,
Ring
sorry.
'96. He lost to Brett WrestleMania '97. You
So
know,
yeah, he
and
kind of was working up, wasn't he?
yeah,
So
he
him winning
lost.
the title. Go on, carry on.
Yeah. So he won King of the Ring '96. He lost to Brett '97. He won the Royal Rumble '98. He beat Shawn '98 due to some unfair officiating by Mike Tyson.
Awesome.
Um, and let me tell you, super unfair. However, it was really that rise, and you could feel it in the air.
Mm.
Everyone wanted Austin to be that guy.
Yeah. It's like in the
And
2000s, Kurt Angle won 3 belts in 1 year. He won the European, but he won the Intercontinental. He was actually having two at the same time. But in the same year of October, I think it was, he actually won the WWE title. Some would say that was like little bits of validation up until the point where he won it.
yeah, but here's the
So
thing: was Angle really ever the guy? Did you ever look at Kurt Angle in the WWE and think he was the guy?
honestly, not really until his matches with Chris Benoit.
Yeah, not until like '03. That was far beyond when he won the title.
Yeah.
He wasn't the guy, so his reigns were really, really short.
I think that was the biggest problem back then because, we maintain a lot of the time. Titles used to change every month, 2 months, 3 months. Nowadays, it kind of feels like right, we're going to stick this title on you because we feel you can carry the company. Prime example, Drew McIntyre. He won the Rumble in 2000, I think it was. Not 2000, 2020.
Yeah, he definitely won the Rumble in 2000.
I didn't mention the 20 though, but yeah, he kind of won the Rumble in 2020. He won it at the WrestleMania behind closed doors, and then they were basically like, right, we like this guy, but we don't know if the crowd does, so we'll give him the title for a bit and see if the crowd warms to him, which they did. So you could say it's a case of validation, but it's also in Drew McIntyre's case. We'll put the belt on him and we'll see if the crowd approves of it, and they actually did. Although I
Yeah.
must admit, when he lost it to Orton for 2 weeks, I think that kind of killed his momentum.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like when Rhea Ripley lost the NXT title to Charlotte Flair. That set her back 6 months.
Absolutely did.
So it's also a case of, yes, it is a bit of a validation, but it can also be a bit of a curse because when you are a champion, everyone's like, right, who's this person going to lose the belt to? Some, other than others, just bounce right back. I mean, like I said, Rhea Ripley, 6 months, she lost it. Kurt Angle didn't really. I don't know how the hell he managed to keep hold of his titles for as long as he did. But at the same time, Josh Alexander's was sort of like building bits and bobs. He was tag champion, then he was X Division champion. Then he won the world title. So his was kind of like little bits of validation going all the way up.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is with Josh Alexander, his validation is always there and always will be. Whereas there are others, I'm not going to say who exactly, but there are others where you are kind of like valid. Some people need validation, others don't. I mean, does Roman Reigns need validation anymore? Does Brock Lesnar need validation anymore?
Does Roman Reigns need validation? We all knew he was the company guy before he got his first championship.
Exactly.
We didn't like it at all. The only time that I think people ever really got the face reaction to Roman that they wanted was Royal Rumble 2014 when we had no other choice.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I don't think the gold makes a man. It can accentuate a man or it can break a man.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think Kushida is a little bit off base with his idea that the gold makes the company or makes the man and that he like giving the gold means you're the face of the company. Because at the end of the day, regardless of who would have the gold, in the Ruthless Aggression era, we knew Cena was the face of the company.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, we didn't care who had the goal. We knew that Hulk Hogan was the face of the company.
Yeah.
It's just the way that things work, and it's just the way that you're pushed. So I think it's a bit off base there. I know it's a little different in Japan, and hopefully it's a little different in Impact, because either Kushida or Steve Macklin could do great things with the Impact World Championship.
Yeah. I think Kushida could more than Steve Macklin, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the lightning round. These are things that we're not going to go over in huge depth or detail, but there's been a lot of news, and I don't want to sit here for an hour quoting everything. So, are you ready?
Hey.
Bronson Reed says everyone loves his meat. There is no question here. I just need an excuse to be gross the hell out. Dean, you got anything?
Is he literally showing himself off to a cannibal? Is he saying he wants to be eaten?
Well, it was a Twitter post saying everybody loves his meat. So I'm going to assume, just based on everything that he's been doing, sort of presenting himself to Bobby Lashley a couple of weeks ago, and then now with this Twitter, I'm going to assume that you are right. He's just asking to be eaten. And quite frankly, cannibalism in wrestling is not okay. You do that on.
We haven't had it before, anyway.
You do that on your own time. Jeff Hardy returned to AEW on Wednesday. Up to you how you want to answer this. How much of a boon is this for AEW, or how long until he's in rehab again?
Honestly, I couldn't care less.
I give him about 6 months. If I can be honest with you, he's had chance after chance after chance.
This is Jeff Hardy, and I'm gonna. It might sound like I'm having a bit of a downer on him, but there are people who you give chances to, and they just don't take it, whatever, regardless of what the reason is. Jeff Hardy is one of them.
And he's one of those cases where it's sad because he's got so much talent.
Yes.
Even back in like the late 2000s, when we knew about his struggles and we knew what he was going through, it was okay. He still had a lot of talent. I think it was Bound for Glory 2011. Was that his match with Sting? Or was it against All Out 2011? It was. I know it was 2011. He had a match with Sting. After that, it just killed Jeff Hardy for me, because I could not believe he would show up in that state, or that Impact would run something in that state. Rey Mysterio wants to face Dom Dom in a hair versus mask match. Are you as pumped up as I am?
I'm intrigued. It's been a while since we've had anything with that resemblance of that.
Yeah. So for me, if you look at Dom Dom, especially the way that he has been received over the past month and a half, 2 months, I can say that I say this to Ben all the time, with the amount of just pure vitriol that Katie gets. It's, wow, listen to that. They love him. He is so hated. It is nuclear heat. And you want to see that little twerp get beaten up.
I want to see him
he is one of the most over heels in the WWE right now, and it is fantastic to see. You gotta love Dom Dom.
I think that's the only thing going for him, because I don't think we as a whole don't really rate him as a wrestler. I think he's probably a great heel, but as far as moves go, he doesn't really excite me like, say, a Rey Mysterio does, or maybe even a Ricochet does.
And here's the thing: he does his moves well.
Yeah.
Like that. That's all. But there's nothing there that really defines him as being a good wrestler. But he is a hell of a character.
Oh yeah,
a hell of a character. He's great. I love Dom Dom. He's wonderful, and so regardless.
Here's a question for you: is it the Dom Dom that makes the woman, or is it the Rhea Ripley that makes the man?
Oh, well, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Rhea Ripley made the Dom Dom, but now the Dom Dom can stay on his own.
Oh yeah,
because oh my God, he does not need Rhea right now with the amount of just pure vitriol he's getting. It is beautiful to see. I get a huge smile anytime he shows up on screen. I also got a huge laugh out of his WrestleMania 39 entrance. It was great too. I don't know if you've seen it, but he shows up in a correctional facilities truck, like not a police car, a correctional facilities truck. He's got like six unarmed guards. That's all it takes, because like he spent one night in the clink, and I love it all to death. It is so funny, but yet he's so hated. It is so wonderful.
I wonder if he had a bar of soap stuck up his arse that one night he was there.
Oh, who knows? He probably did. Well, anything that got that close to Rhea Ripley just shoots up in any sort of prison guy's eyes.
There's kind of like a not so much a conflict of interest. It's sort of something similar. It's like Dom Dom is the most hated, probably most hated as far as heel heat goes. But Rhea Ripley's actually getting more positive chance because she beat Charlotte Flair, who I'm not even
everyone sure hates.
Yeah, I'm not even sure anyone likes Charlotte Flair. So is it a case of we have a bit of a contradiction here? We're supposed to hate Dom, but everyone loves Rhea Ripley.
Hey, you can love someone, but hate who they're with. Let's be fair here. You can.
Yeah, you can. That's true.
Yeah. Tommy Dreamer wants a WWE Hall of Fame induction. Does he deserve one? Yeah.
It's tough. As far as ECW goes, I will say yes.
Yeah. But his WWE stuff?
No.
No. That's my issue with him too. If you're going to do a class full of ECW, absolutely have him there.
Yeah, fair enough. Have an ECW year where a lot of people from ECW go in.
Yeah,
it's like saying it's been the same situation with a Sandman. Would Sandman go in the Hall of Fame because of his WWE stuff?
Absolutely not.
Would he go in for his ECW stuff? Yes.
Yeah. 1,000%. WWE rebrands the Saudi King and Queen of the Ring event to Night of Champions. Dean, is this fallout from the Saudi Public Investment Fund not buying WWE?
Could be a bit of both, to be honest. It depends. Is it still being taken place in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it's still in Saudi.
Could be anything. It could be a case of this could be punishment, or we just decided, you know what? Let's not have King of the Ring or Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia. Let's just make it like, say, Night of Champions. There's so many ways you could spin it. I would actually think of they probably wanted that for another night and just decided Night of Champions. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did decide to rename it because of PIF.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not sure what the facts are.
And to be fair, that was just pure speculation on my part, just because I do know that Saudi Arabia has had women's wrestling in the past, but it was always a very controversial thing.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know much about the Middle East, but I do know that Lacey Evans and Natalia literally had so much clothes on, they probably would have boiled alive.
Yep.
So I don't know, it could be a lot of factors. But I'm more than happy with Night of Champions being there rather than King and Queen of the Ring.
Yeah, personally, I have no issue with any women wrestler refusing Saudi.
I don't really have a problem with anyone refusing Saudi, especially after what happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It led to one of the best SmackDowns ever, though. So that's why. So that's why I'm just like, I'm not going to go that route. It still has one of my favorite Daniel Bryan segments of all time, where he's where they are teasing everything because everybody knows this is thrown together at the last minute. NXT invades SmackDown. Bryan Danielson is the only one who can make it there. And then you tease Bryan Danielson versus Shawn Michaels, and then Shawn just goes, "Oh, it's chilly in here." Yeah, no, it's chilly in here. Fatty coat. Yeah. Oh, don't worry, Daniel. It's not him. Hey, champ. And then you get Adam Cole, and everybody just goes nuts.
Yeah,
it's great. The whole thing was a great time. But that being said, Darby Allin got hit by a car on April 6th and wrestled on April 7th. Is Darby Allin a huge badass?
Right, so I didn't actually know this. So tell me, do you have any details about what the crash was?
I can easily get you those details. It's just I wondered that too, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Because it depends on how much he was actually hit by the
If
car
it's
that determines
like,
how big.
yeah, if it's kind of like someone braked and just banged his knee, then I'd say fair enough. But if you're talking like a proper car crash, then he probably wouldn't be.
Yeah. So yeah, it was reported by it's looking like Colin Tessier here. It's on WrestleZone.com. So the broadcast team noted that Darby Allin was hit by a car while he was skateboarding in New York City the day before.
Right.
Um, However, there is nothing really too much to say about it. Darby Allin had road rash on his back and side,
Ooh.
so he definitely did get hit, and it definitely did hurt. But there was nothing more significant than that. It was
Not one
minor
that
injuries.
not something that would require an ambulance, let's say.
No, no.
So badass, is it? Well, a lot would say, he's hit by a car one day and wrestled the next. Everyone would just assume like he's been in a big accident.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a bit of both. But I do respect him, even if it is just road rash for wrestling the next day. Because
yeah.
a lot of people would just say, you know what, I'm not going to go into work the next day because of it. But if he has, I will consider him a badass, even if it is like not the worst type of car crash you can have.
I'm sorry. I've skinned a lot of things in my day. It hurts, especially if you're doing something as physical as wrestling. So, respect to Darby for getting hit by a car and showing up the next day. FTR has signed new 4-year contracts with AEW. How much of an impact will they have on the tag division?
A lot. I I think the question should be: they've done a lot since they first signed with it. Is there any more that they can do?
Well, is there any more that they can do?
Have they held the New Japan Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles yet, or
Have
the
they
I?
held the NJPW titles or the IWGP? I don't believe they have, but I do not know that off the top of my head. But they're locked in with AEW. How great is that working relationship it is with NJPW?
Oh,
That's what I'd be looking at if I were looking at
yeah.
that.
And
Um
and to be fair, they are sharing talent nowadays, so it's
yeah,
possible.
I
Have they?
look at it from a completely different perspective is if you've got an FTR there for another 4 years, that means for at least 2 or 3 of those years, your tag team division has a rock solid tag team that can do immensely wonderful things. And it makes a statement to the wrestling world that AEW cares about tag teams. Because if you look at FTR, they're both immensely talented individually, but as tag teams go, if they're willing to commit for that long, they see a roadmap for them, a benchmark for them, and of the division with how much they have done and how much they give back.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that if you haven't got anybody in mind for the tag team titles, at least you have a dependable team that you can put the belts on, and nobody will complain because
No,
FTR is one of the best.
no, nobody will
I wouldn't
complain.
complain. They've
No,
held they've held 3 different types of belts. Have I gone? Yeah, maybe they shouldn't hold that many. I haven't. I've been quite happy that they've got 3 different types of belt, 3 different types of tag team title belts. It's not as if it's the Usos who just hang on to them for like, oh, I don't know, a millennium and an ice age, maybe.
and get a freaking rematch for doing absolutely nothing in
Yeah.
2 weeks on SmackDown. It's absolutely terrible. Speaking of things that could potentially be great or terrible, Brian Cage signs a 5-year deal with AEW and Ring of Honor. Is he in the right place?
The only person who could really answer that is Brian Cage.
Fair
But the
enough.
fact that he signed 5 years with AEW and Ring of Honor would indicate that he believes he's in the right place.
Fair enough. I always saw him as more of a WWE guy just because of the way he's built.
He is more of a WWE guy, but he's been world champion in Impact before. So if he did go back to Impact, they would actually make sure that he's pushed to the limit.
Yeah.
So if he went to Impact, I'd be happy. I think if he went to WWE, it would fizzle out like a lot of WWE. He'd do great in NXT, but I think the minute he went to the main roster, he'd be wishing, "Oh my god, I wish I stayed on NXT."
Okay, and finally, a question submitted by my mother, and you know how much my mother loves her wrestling. Specifically, one person in wrestling
One person in
is
particular.
her favorite number one fan. Worse than me with Sean. She wants to know, in your opinion, was WrestleMania 39 bigger than the Mrs. Balls?
Can I reiterate this question? Was
Yes.
WrestleMania 39 bigger than the Miz's and Maurice's balls?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Maurice is kind of blacklisted from the family here, Dan.
But yes, the answer is yes.
I think night one was.
Night one has, even though I haven't seen night one or night two, night one is talked about mostly. But then again, night two had Roman Reigns, and who really cares?
So here's the thing. Night one was great. Night one from top to bottom was great. Night two had one really, really good match. That was a triple threat between Sheamus, Walter, and your boy McIntyre. Special thanks to Walter for winning me fried chicken. But that match was so hard hitting and so great. Night two in general. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence as to which is bigger, WrestleMania 39 Night 2 or the Mrs. Balls. But Night 1, damn right. Absolutely.
I think
Um,
what would have made night two greater is would have been if Roman Reigns lost.
right? It
But
was the
yeah,
perfect time. It was
yeah,
the perfect time.
everyone's already in the tired stage of Roman Reigns being champion.
And we have been for about a year, year and a half, 2 years.
2.5.
You know what? Let's just say we didn't want Roman Reigns as champion at all.
We didn't want. I didn't mind him as a heel champion, but as soon as it goes past 6 to 8 months, that's when you're thinking, yeah, I need a change of champion before this gets stale. But the only problem is it's 2 years too long stale.
It's gotten so stale. It's not even funny. Like I'm sorry. It has inadvertently made Sami Zayn. I'll tell you this. Like, to the storyline's credit, the Bloodline storyline has made Sami Zayn into a much bigger star than he could ever. But the whole reason for that was that Sami Zayn instantly made the storyline as fresh as it could possibly be. So you looked at it from another perspective. It wasn't Roman Reigns' family ruling the roost anymore. It was Sami Zayn seeking approval to get into Roman Reigns' family.
Yeah.
And it was great. Just because of how affable and likable Sami Zayn actually is. And it's going to be a travesty going forward. But anyway, Dean, you consider yourself a movie guy more so than a wrestling guy.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got the whole Final Cut Presents a Director's Cut podcast, which is basically Dean creams in his jeans over Christopher Nolan 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The podcast.
Just like the wrestling one is about Nathan Tasker creaming in his pants more than about Shawn Michaels.
Hey, I will have you know I've done that on Final Cut Presents Director's Cut podcast too.
Actually,
have you seen the resurrection of Javin Stone? Well, I have, surely because Shawn Michaels is a part of it. Have you seen that space farce movie where Shawn Michaels played the Incredible Master Yoga? I have. I don't remember the name of the movie. I don't remember a damn thing about it. But Shawn Michaels was in it, so you bet your ass I've seen it. Did you see the episode of Baywatch where Shawn Michaels guest starred as that guy with the binoculars where he moved them down?
I think I did actually. I think because on the TV I've got, Baywatch Remastered is actually one of the channels. So I'm pretty sure I have, but I do remember a very old episode featuring the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Vader, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage. And yes, Hulk Hogan was being Hulk Hogan. So he probably demanded a lot more of the time than anyone else. He probably demanded more money than everyone else. He demanded creative input more than anyone else. But yeah, your question.
Fair. But so when you look at wrestlers right now, can you name any who you could see transition to the acting world like a Dave Bautista or Dwayne Johnson have? And if so, why?
Give me a minute to have a think, because there is a lot.
Yeah, Absolutely. Take your time.
Samoa Joe.
Really? I could see him transitioning to like animation and
I could
voiceover
see him
stuff.
transitioning into action, but the only thing is, are you looking for someone who's going to be like a Dwayne Johnson and just basically play those sort of roles, or are you looking for a Dave Bautista who will want to expand his craft, who wants to do different roles, who doesn't want to be an action guy all the time, who wants to play a nerdy scientist, who wants to play a psychopath, who wants to be like the embodiment of intensity.
Who
So
marched into DC Universe's board meetings and said, make me Bane."
he literally,
Or something.
this is actually a true story from what I hear. He literally marched into Warner Brothers Studios as a boardroom. I think it was a boardroom, and he literally said, "I want to play Bane." As far as current wrestlers at the minute, I will say Samoa Joe because Joe can be the greatest, one of the great heels if he plays it properly. He's got a mouth, as we both know, so
Yes.
he's more than privy to a few comebacks of his own acid tongue. And to be honest with you, and I don't mean I'm going to sound this might sound a bit disrespectful, but he's probably a better actor than Randy Orton ever could be.
Ooh.
I haven't seen The Condemned 2, but the fact that Randy Orton's only ever done one movie kind of speaks volumes. But
Oh.
this is just off top of my head, by the way. So I've only had about 20 minutes to think about this.
Yeah, no.
The person that came into my mind was Samoa Joe because he is the sort of guy who can be the action star. He can be the unrelenting villain who literally kills people, who goes through an entire army to get what he wants. Karrion Kross, I've always said Karrion Kross would make a great horror villain.
Yeah.
Just
So
because,
some
just because in Impact, I don't know if anybody did actually watch Kross in Impact. He literally had this. He actually had the maniacal laugh and the look of a psychopath. Remember that Impact when John Morrison went after Brian Cage,
yes.
and all Karrion Kross did ringside was just laugh.
Yeah.
That's if you
It was
watch.
beautiful.
I literally challenge any horror fan to watch that segment, and they can tell me straight to my face that Karrion Kross would not make a great movie villain. He's got it all. He's got the muscular frame. He's got the psychopathic look. He's got the psycho laugh. I cannot think. He could probably do a better job, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Kane Hodder when I say this, but he could probably be one of the greatest horror villains of all time, stuntman wise. If he tried it, he'd be way better than Kane. Oh my god!
Um so the reason I asked you that is because I wanted to see if you said Cody Rhodes.
Cody has something about him, but I can't. He's one. I'm gonna. This might sound again controversial. When you say to me actor, Cody Rhodes does not really figure into that conversation.
Mhm. Well, the funny thing is, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, Cody Rhodes has been linked to two different movie roles: Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2,
No,
or an unnamed
no.
role.
Carry on.
Johnny Cage in Mortal
No.
Kombat 2,
No.
or an unnamed role in the Legend of Zelda movie. Would you cast him in either of these movies?
Just when you say that, do you mean as Johnny Cage or as somebody
No,
else?
I meant in general. But hey, if you want to cast him as Johnny Cage, it
No
apparently
way.
seems like it's your number one choice.
Everybody wants the Miz. Every wrestling fan wants the Miz. And no offense, but has Cody Rhodes demonstrated Johnny Cage esque, not so much features, but what's it called?
Wit.
What makes Johnny Cage Johnny Cage?
Yeah, his wit.
Yeah, his wit. Has he got wit about him?
Not in that way.
In that case, then no.
Yeah.
Everybody wants. A lot of people want the Miz. The Miz would be the better choice. As for Legend of Zelda, that would depend on a lot of things. Is it going to be live action or is it animation? Or don't we know?
We don't know as of yet. The Legend of Zelda is in a very hypothetical stage. It's probably going to be greenlit because of how well the Super Mario Bros. Movie is doing.
But at the same time, one, it would depend on what role he's playing, and two, he needs if he's in this movie for whatever role he's in for, if he doesn't like if he's never played a game or doesn't like more so doesn't like the franchise or doesn't respect the franchise, then that's blown it.
I can tell you right now, I'll stop you right there. He's had boots in the name of the Triforce and a tattoo of the Triforce somewhere on his body at one point or another.
Right, in that case, I'll take that back.
Yeah. If there's one franchise he respects the hell out of is Zelda.
Has he played any of the games?
Yes.
In that case, he can be in it then.
Yeah. The problem is, I don't know where he fits.
I don't either. He's no Link, let's be honest.
Yeah, I don't see him as the Link. I would see a younger actor, possibly Tom Holland as Link if it were animation. In terms of live action, I don't think we found our Link yet. And I don't think he is evil or built enough to be a good Ganon.
No.
I don't see that either. Quite frankly, I was shocked when I heard that, he is met or that he's in talks, and I think it's just Sean Ross Sapp being a little bit facetious. I can believe that he would take the meeting, but in terms of him being linked to these parts, I don't see it for either one of them. I would think Cody would be in there at this stage to wrestle and to really cement himself.
Yeah.
As a top guy in the WWE, which is probably the one thing Cody's never done.
All right, let me ask you a question about Cody Rhodes. There are roles in Movieland that require more body movements and facial expressions than actual voice.
Yeah.
Is he one of those?
I think he'd be fine with that.
If you find him a role like that, I mean, it's like Joe Taslim Sub-Zero. Not much talking. There's more action. There's more like action and movement involved. If you could find a role for Cody that has less talking in it and more action, then I could possibly get on board with it. I mean, Joe Taslim, as far as I'm concerned, has made Sub-Zero his own. As far as I'm concerned, he is now revered as far as that role goes. Unless they have him coming back as Sub-Zero, I don't even want to know. I think he is coming back for the sequel, by the way. But
I think he would be, yeah.
Yeah, the minute he doesn't come back as Sub-Zero, I would ask serious questions because I will defend the newer Mortal Kombat to the hill. I think that everyone's a good job. I think it's funny as hell, particularly Kano, I will be honest.
Yeah. Well, Kano was always funny.
Yeah. But aside from it, he was probably the best person that you could have thought about for that role. Not to mention the fact that our old friend Daniel Nelson said how much he had to research, and he was actually the one that surprised Daniel.
Yeah, he needed the way that Daniel Nelson took a look at things and the way that Daniel Nelson spoke about Joe Taslim. Yeah, it was insane how much love he had for the franchise. I'm with you in terms of philosophy, but would I cast him into either of those movies? Mortal Kombat, definitely not. Unless it was a role like, say, a Striker. I could see him as Striker. But in the case of, say, The Legend of Zelda, I don't see a specific part for Cody Rhodes when I look at what that movie could be. In a couple years down the line, if Zelda becomes more concrete, we'll talk. But do I see him as Link? Absolutely not. Do I see him as Ganondorf? Absolutely not. Do I see him as Zelda? Well, maybe, but we'll talk in to see how good he looks in the way.
Could be Zelda.
Well, all I'm thinking right now is, okay, look, if you have to have Cody Rhodes in the movie, you can't have him be Link. I'm sorry. Brandy is too unlikable to be Zelda in the grand wrestling scene. And his child will be too young. So really, the only choice you have, if you have to have the Rhodes family for Zelda, is Cody.
Yeah.
It would tank your entire movie.
So as far as that goes, we can put that to bed with show me a role he'd be good for, and then we'd go for it. But those two aren't for him.
Yeah. In terms of... Okay, final article we have before we get to the topic. It's time for the return of my personal favorite podcast segment. Since I've been drinking a little bit on podcast. Badass or bullcrap? I have one article here. It was submitted by Ben from Beyond the Drunken Grave that I could not help but laugh at. So just to remind you, Dean, and everybody at home, I'm going to give you this article, and I want you to tell me if it's grade A badass or grade A bullcrap and why. There is no limit to what you can and can't say here. This is just for shits and gigs.
Yeah.
So, according to an interview with Steve Carrier of Ringside News, Nick Khan stated that Triple H is the sole creative chief officer, that Vince McMahon views him as such, and that Vince McMahon will not be seeking input on creative decisions. However, he is there if Triple H needs him. The article Ben found on Bleacher Report noted that Vince was backstage the Raw after WrestleMania, which was widely panned by fans, and that Vince McMahon hasn't been seen since. He's been at most on the phone to look over scripts. And that Endeavor will probably be looking at that in the future. But with that stated, Dean, Vince McMahon's statement, badass or bullcrap?
Vince McMahon not having a say in anything is bullcrap. I actually said this to you off camera, but
yeah, you did.
I'll say
You
it
did.
again. Vince McMahon is like a nose's dog. He wants to sniff everything to know what it's like, regardless of what it is, whether it's food or shit. And the only thing is with Vince McMahon, he's been sniffing around too much shit that nobody really cares or believes what he says anymore.
Well, here's the thing. They tried to make, when the Endeavor merger happened to that point, they tried to iterate that Vince McMahon would not be a part of creative anymore. But Raw after WrestleMania tanked so badly, and so many reports came out as to the reason why Raw after WrestleMania tanked so badly. I have a feeling that it's to some effect true.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it was Vince McMahon's decision.
No. I think it was a case of, I think we discussed this last week about
Yeah.
Vince was in charge. I think what actually happened, and I'm sure you agree with me, they did that first week as a trial, right? We'll let Vince run Raw and we'll let Triple H run SmackDown. And whoever basically gets most viewership, etc., wins. Vince tanked it. Triple H absolutely dominated it.
Yeah.
So you could make the argument that Triple H, just on that 1 week's viewings, Triple H could have sole creative control. But I still feel that when it actually says that Vince McMahon will not be seeking input, but he will be there.
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of a possibility to it because Vince always wants to be involved,
Absolutely.
regardless of anybody wants him or not. But at the same time, if Endeavor know what's good for them, and no offense, but Endeavor has actually come to the point where they bought out WWE.
Yeah.
So I could see a little bit of truth to it, but as far as Vince not being involved in creative at all, he will be involved. That I pretty much can guarantee.
Yeah.
All can.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%, I'm with you there. As for me, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. If it is true, absolutely badass. And I can believe there be some ring of truth to it, given that Endeavor is very social media conscious, we'll say.
Yeah.
And they had to have been to help build the UFC into what it is and continues to be. And when you've got literally thousands of people saying how bad the Raw after WrestleMania was, you've got us saying it, you've got guys like Bleacher Report saying it, what culture, WrestleMania, you name the media outlet, they've all said how bad that Raw after WrestleMania 39 was. You've got the dirt sheets all saying how bad the morale was. You're going back to it and you're thinking to yourself, okay, Endeavor must have said something somewhere, whether it was a empty statement to save face or whether there was a degree of truth to it. I absolutely can believe that there is at least some degree of truth to what Nick Khan has said. Because I don't believe it's up to Vince McMahon fully anymore.
It's not.
I don't believe that this is what Vince McMahon believes either.
Vince McMahon just believes what Vince McMahon wants. He thinks he's still in charge of creative, he'll be in charge of creative.
Yep.
It just depends. If it is true, how will Endeavor enforce it? Because let's face it, Vince McMahon is all ego. He'll do what he wants.
Yep. 1,001%. 1,001%. But now is the time to let Vince McMahon's ego go away and let our egos come out with one of the best topics I think we've had in a long time. It is just my excuse to get drunk on podcast and predict stuff for the next fiscal year. Just complete transparency. The WWE draft is starting up in a little under 2 weeks. The draft has led to a few very important touchstones in the WWE. For example, we've had the rise of Super Cena. We've had the day commentary died when Michael Cole and Jim Ross switched places. The main event rise of Jeff Hardy, Daniel Bryan, and CM Punk. The main roster ascension of many WWE superstars. Off the top of my head, people like Finn Balor and AJ Lee were huge. Dean, I'm going to leave this one up to us because this past Monday on Monday Night Raw, Trish Stratus turned on Becky Lynch. It was shocking, but what you may not have known is that this was predicted by Ben every day since about April 9th. So much like with Dean's F1 predictions from last year, we're going to go around between the two of us making predictions about wrestling. It could be companies, superstars, whatever, in the next fiscal year, which is April 2023 to March 2024. And just to have a laugh, in 1 year, roughly, we're going to take a look back on this and see how right we were or how wrong we were. This is just to have a laugh. If you want to stop your podcast viewing now, don't mind. If you do want to listen to our drunken ramblings, please continue on. I'm going to start things off. Maxwell Jacob Friedman is going to be a free agent January 1st, 2024. I wholeheartedly believe he stays with AEW. Not only that, but I believe the Endeavor merger hurt his value, and he's not going to be getting nearly the contract he believes he's worth.
Yeah. This is going to be a bit depressing. I still think Roman Reigns will be champion this time next year.
I believe it too.
That's the worst thing about it.
I believe, actually, to follow up on that, I believe Roman Reigns will not win a legitimate match for another year.
That's plausible. That's feasible.
He didn't win a single match without some sort of interference from the bloodline in the last year. And you've got all these people saying how great Roman Reigns is. No,
he's not.
No, that was just the way he's booked. There's a difference between booked and how great you are. Roman Reigns has evolved into a good talker and a good worker of the crowd when he wants to be.
Yeah.
But it isn't that without that caveat there, he's not. He's just not.
I predict this year's Survivor Series will be NXT versus Raw versus SmackDown.
So I actually am going to go a little bit further on and say I believe the best way to have your draft and how I hope to have the draft is to have Raw, SmackDown, and NXT all draft their own guys. So basically what's going to happen is I want to have a situation where Paul Heyman is drafting for Raw. Mm-hmm. Triple H is drafting for SmackDown.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels is drafting for NXT. So the whole way I would set it up is, number one, Shawn is out there purely to draft his own guys. Mm-hmm. He's there to basically preserve the integrity of the NXT brand. He will not go after any of the top guys unless people piss him off. Yeah. Paul Heyman is there to draft Raw because Triple H does not trust himself to draft both Raw and SmackDown. Yeah. So he's got somebody who is at least somewhat trusted to draft Raw. Triple H drafts SmackDown because, of course, he does. Yeah. SmackDown gets the first pick. Triple H drafts Roman Reigns. So Paul Heyman cannot draft Roman Reigns, and he's got a vested interest in making sure that the bloodline go to SmackDown. Mm-hmm. Paul Heyman then gets to work trying to draft away every feasible opponent to Raw for Roman Reigns.
Yeah, but he won't.
But he does not draft the bloodline.
No, he won't.
And there is a stipulation in place that whoever does not get drafted cannot appear on Raw or SmackDown for 30 days.
That would be nice.
So Triple H, all throughout the draft, is taunting Paul, saying he will not draft the Bloodline, so that Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, is on his own for a month, and that Paul Heyman did it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Paul could save the entire Bloodline, or he could doom Roman Reigns because Triple H wholeheartedly will not draft them. Meanwhile, Shawn, again, is drafting his own guys. And whether it be Paul Heyman or Triple H who pisses him off, I don't know. But eventually, Shawn is going to draft someone like a Seth Rollins, a Finn Balor, or somebody to center the brand and completely screw up either what Triple H or Paul Heyman are doing, simply because they're interested in drafting some of Shawn's guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that'd be fun.
I think Bron Breakker will go to the main roster this year.
I wholeheartedly believe you. Better yet, I think Grayson Waller will go to the main roster this year.
I think Grayson Waller would do very well on the main roster. I'm just trying to think who could actually go back to NXT, because we've had quite a few this year.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who.
So while you're thinking about that, I'm just going to say this. Drew Galloway leaves WWE.
I've heard rumors that he might be leaving, so I can very much believe that.
Better yet, I believe he goes to New Japan. I do not believe he goes to AEW, as much as AEW might want him.
I think he might go. I agree that he won't go to AEW, but I think he might go to Impact.
Really?
I think he might. He's been there before. He knows how the place is run. He's won numerous titles there. But to be honest with you, I could see him go to New Japan as well. Do we even mention Mercedes Moné?
Oh, I believe she got the greatest deal in all of wrestling, and she's going to ride that out till the end of her contract.
Yeah.
I believe she is extremely overvalued.
Oh, she is. I'm not going to say this is a prediction, but this is more of a hope. I hope Kairi Sane comes back to WWE at some point.
I don't believe Kairi Sane will come back to WWE.
I don't think she will, but like I said, I hope she comes back, but I don't think she will. Because she left for a reason. She went back to Japan for a reason. But I do miss Kairi Sane so much.
The next Canadian pay-per-view the WWE has, especially if it's in Ontario, is the pay-per-view where Edge will retire.
Yeah. I'm going to make a prediction about a pay-per-view now.
Go ahead.
I think there will be a cash-in at Money in the Bank in London.
Ooh.
It's the first pay-per-view over here since, what was the last one? I think it was like Insurrection in 2001, I think it was. You're bringing WWE back for the first time in 20-odd years. You want to make sure it's a rousing success, that everybody wants them to come back. Clash of the Castle was a good start. However, I think they let everyone down last year when Drew did not win it, because that's literally what everyone wanted.
I don't think it's not going to happen.
They need something big for this one.
I think a cash-in might happen there, but I would be worried if I were you. Roman Reigns would retain.
Just remember, Austin Theory didn't go for the main; he went for the US. So there's no limit on what you can go for. But I really want this to go, because I'm not going to Money in the Bank this year. I'll be brutally honest. But I want it to be a pay-per-view where my fellow countrymen can go, oh, this was a great night. This happened. And I should point out, AJ Styles was the first person to win the WWE title and overseas on SmackDown. And that was in Manchester. So it can happen. I pray to God it does. And not to mention the fact that AEW is coming over here in September.
Yeah, I was going to say, my next prediction, AEW All In, August 27, 2023, will not only sell out Wembley Stadium,
It
but will
will.
be a wrestling event that is talked about in the same vein as All Out 2021.
I'm going to make a prediction that AEW's pay-per-view will blow Clash at the Castle out of the water.
That's not a prediction. That's a fact, dude.
Ooh,
That's
that,
that's
that's
not a
hot.
prediction.
Not to
That's
mention
not
the
a
fact we had,
prediction.
not to mention the fact we had Dom heel turn last year at Clash of the Castle.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The Brits have the rise of one of the greatest heels in history.
Yeah,
And
but I will say one thing as far as the what I believe the cash in will be. I don't think it'll be it'll be the male one. I have a feeling it will be the female one.
who do you have cashing in?
I know Raquel Rodriguez has been mentioned quite a bit because I know there's a lot of people in WWE who are very high up on her, and the fact that she's just won the WWE Tag Team titles as well, which would indicate she's sort of on her way there. But
I
I
am hoping to
don't know.
God they cash in on Bianca. Whoever it is cashes in on Bianca.
Someone, I will agree with that. I do hope it's Bianca that gets cashed in on because
I think Bianca's going to turn heel by the end of 2020, by the end of 2023, fiscal 2024.
I will
She's
agree with
gotten
that as well.
so stale.
She is the female Roman Reigns,
Yeah.
literally. If
She's
anybody
got
wants to argue that point with us, by all means. But the fact of the matter is, she is literally running the same parallel lines as Roman Reigns.
Yep.
A heel turn will do her good, but at the end of the day, it will basically just be like Roman Reigns. She'll be all right for 6 months. She'll be all right for 6 months, sorry. And then everyone will just wish she was elsewhere.
Again, these predictions are sounding more and more like facts, Dean.
Yeah, they
This
are.
isn't good. This isn't good.
It's
Okay,
not
let's
like
go.
Josh Gravel, who every single year says Sir Lancelot, aka Lance Stroll, will win a race. And 3 years on the trot, he's been disappointed.
Okay. So let's go a little bit more outlandish, a little bit more hopeful here.
Charlotte
The
Flair will announce a pregnancy in the next year.
The Miz will retire from the WWE for 1 year because he's gotten the role as Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2.
That's kind of a fact as well.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, all right.
Considering the fact
My
that, but
my
yeah,
mother will meet the Miz when he comes to my small town of Goderich, Ontario, Canada, and it will be the moment of her life.
and your mother will faint as a result of that.
Absolutely,
Charlotte Flair will
1,001%.
Charlotte Flair will do a Becky Lynch and have a baby this year.
Oh,
I think she's kind of like how Becky was. I don't know if Becky's was planned or not, but Becky loves motherhood. But I think the time for Charlotte and Andrade is now because I think Charlotte's time in WWE is coming to an end.
yeah.
And I think she will want to start a family with Andrade. It might be controversial. Some people will say it's controversial. It's just a line of fact. I mean, didn't Jim Cornette bloody go on and on and on about how he couldn't grasp how Becky Lynch was being a mother when she was earning $1 million a year?
With all due respect, though, when it comes to Jim Cornette, unless the topic is Wendy's, I don't listen. So,
But at the same time, as an uncle of so many, I can see it happening this year.
um, the Undertaker will stay away from wrestling for the entire fiscal year.
I would say 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. Just because he's retired, he's enjoying retirement, he's spending time with Michelle and their daughter. I can see him staying away for a couple of years, but I do see him coming back to do something in WWE at some point. But I think he's enjoying retirement now, and he just needs a break. Saying that, we all need a break. I can see in the next 5 years Glenn Jacobs trying to be president. I personally don't think that. I don't think he has
President Kane. President Kane.
As soon as he comes in, it's hellfire and brimstone.
Man, Republican Party. There's your nomination right there. If you want to get the wrestlers vote.
Hey, Glenn Jacobs of Tennessee.
Da 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 da.
I can see Logan Paul winning the title in the next year.
I can also see Logan Paul winning the WWE Championship
I can
if
also
Roman Reigns doesn't drop it.
I can also see Walter hanging on to that IC title for at least another year.
John Cena's final opponent from 2023 to 2024 will be Logan Paul.
I can see that as well.
Um, what else is there?
I can see more developments. Well, I know it's not so much of a fact. Just what Ben said about Trish. I can see Trish having a retirement match where she loses to Becky.
Trish already had a retirement match, dude.
Yeah, but she come back.
Yeah, but I find Trish to be an enigma. Like
I do. But
she's
there is
gonna
one thing.
keep coming back, and she's going to always be amazing.
All right, I'll rephrase that. There'll be a grudge match between her and Becky,
Well,
probably.
yeah, that's
Probably a
happening.
Hell in a Cell or something like that. The one thing I can guarantee is that Dave Bautista will never return to WWE.
Ooh,
He did actually say this. He's actually retired because they tried to get him to Saudi. But I do remember, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that Dave Bautista is officially retired. So he will not be coming back. I think the only way he'll come back is if he's desperately short of cash, which he is not. I'm just trying to think about NXT call-ups who could actually go up.
Rey Mysterio will be done after WrestleMania in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, let's say something Ben Walsh like. What would Ben Walsh say?
Oh, sorry. Sky Blue will win the AEW Women's Championship. Sky Blue, Sky Blue.
Never happened. There's two. With all due respect to Ben, I know he loves us immensely.
Oh.
But I think there's too much talent. And no offense, but Jade Cargill is still TBS champion. I can see Jade Cargill being that for like another 2 years.
You want to know something? I could see it happening, but I don't see it happening until at least like 2025.
When you actually find out what your AEW Women's Champion's actually doing. And when Jade Cargill eventually loses that TBS title, but who knows how long that's going to be. And to be honest, I've been quite enjoying the Outcast versus everyone else of the women's roster, to be honest.
I'm going to make a very bold prediction here. AEW Fight Forever is going to shit the bed. As a video game, it's gonna just tank.
I can see it not doing as well as WWE 2K23.
Although it's not going to. WWE 2K23, I think we're up to over 1 million copies of it sold already. Yeah. I'm not sure, but there's no way in hell. I think it's going to shit the bed because I'm not even sure it's going to come out.
When's the release date? Is it August?
Well, we don't have a release date for it. It was originally going to be actually in April. And then it was pushed back because, it was originally pushed back because they couldn't secure its T for teen rating, which is what they wanted. They finally got that. So we're like, okay, great. We're getting that soon. And then I think it's somebody from THQ Nordic came out and said, well, no. It's not ready yet. But the further it goes, the more out of date it's going to be.
Yeah.
The more out of date it's going to be, the more it's going to shit the bed. The fact that Danhausen was promoting this game on IGN, but yet he's not scheduled to be a part of the main roster.
That kind of says something, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's telling to me. I'm not sure it's going to be out, but if it is, I think it's going to shit the bed. I think it's spent too much time. I think it spent too much time baking the oven, and now it's going to burn.
Yeah. It's going to be charcoal by the time it's released.
Yeah. I think.
Hold on.
You got one?
I think Mickie James will still be wrestling next year.
I think Stephanie McMahon will return to WWE in some capacity.
That's a guarantee, mate. I already know she'll be back. I can guarantee another thing, that Shane will not blow out both quads this year.
It's almost impossible. Like, hey, is he gonna come back at Royal Rumble 2024? I mean, really? Who knows?
Who knows? He's already blown one quad at WrestleMania. He'll come back Royal Rumble next year and blow the other quad.
Well, what was even funnier is he blew the quad while getting perhaps the best air he has ever got. He's
Yeah.
over 50, but he got some of the best air he's ever gotten, and then it turns out, yeah, he's blown out his quad.
It's fucking charming.
It was great and terrible at the same time. Um,
I've got one for you.
yeah,
NXT Europe will debut this year. There was
that,
it was NXT UK from what I understand, but NXT UK has closed its doors. But there was rumblings of an NXT Europe.
yep.
I think NXT Europe will debut this year.
Okay,
I haven't received anything recent on it, but the only thing is NXT UK did quite well. I felt a lot of champions in the WWE and AEW started off there. Rhea Ripley was the first one. Tony Storm was in there as well. Alba Fire was actually there as well. Pete Dunne was there. Oh, by the way, number one, can we please bring back Pete Dunne, please?
yes. For the love of God,
Butch.
he will be back within the next. He'll be back within the next year.
Can I just say I want Pete Dunne because every single time I hear the word Butch, it's either a bushwhacker or Robin Hood Men in Tights.
I'll tell you what I think of. So there, when you watched Pokemon back in the day, there were always two groups of Team Rocket. There's Jesse and James, and then there's Cassidy and Butch.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it didn't matter how you mispronounced Butch's name. Like say for example, it's Cassidy and Biff. It's Butch.
Oh yeah.
That's what I think about whenever I hear Butch, and it's just like no, his name is Pete Dunne. All right.
I think FTR not so much be the most decorated tag team of all time, but I think they will win the most different tag team titles in history. The Dudleys got most of those from WWE, ECW, WCW, IWGP. I can see FTR getting the IWGP and the New Japan Pro Wrestling tag team titles.
Within 2 months of him returning, Josh Alexander will be heel.
I can see him also getting the belt back when he comes back, regardless of whether he's heel or face.
Yeah.
I can also predict that while the buyout of WWE by Endeavor is still in its infancy, and until everything's sorted out, WWE will not hire everyone, but they will have mass firings at least twice this year, if not more.
I believe that a big star like your upper mid card or your main event will feel the sting of the Endeavor merger.
I can see a lot of people feeling that, to be honest. I'm not quite sure who. I'm going to have a bit of a stab in the dark here. It might be considered controversial. I can see Brock Lesnar being kept in line by Endeavor.
Oh, really?
It's ambitious, but at the same time, Endeavor knows how to run a business. And let's face it, Brock Lesnar's got away a lot with a lot that others would have been absolutely drilled into the ground for.
Yeah.
I'll
give you that. And I say that as somebody who loves Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Endeavor will reel him in when he goes too far. I must admit, he's gone. There was actually an entire WrestleMania segment about 10 times when Brock Lesnar went too far.
Yeah.
One of them was to punch on Braun Strowman, but then again, Braun Strowman accidentally kneed him in the head, which was fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think Endeavor would go after him for that one.
They won't, but at the same time, if he goes off script like he actually did with was it his Royal Rumble elimination, I can see Endeavor coming down on it.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Endeavor have worked with him; they know how to deal with him. He
Yep.
won't have the same free reign as well as he did with Vince.
No. I
I,
could
wa-
also see him retiring within this year.
I was gonna. I was just about. You know, what I was about to say. I don't know if he'll retire this year, but I can see him retiring soon. I mean, what else has the guy got to win in WWE?
And he's like 45, 46.
Yeah, I can see
Oh,
Roman Reigns doing movies this year.
this isn't an opinion. This is a fact. When he does retire, if he is not wearing the cowboy hat, I will cry.
Yeah, I
Um,
I am a big fan. Honestly, when Brock Lesnar came in, I was such a big fan of the intense Brock with Paul Heyman. But like you, I do enjoy Cowboy Brock.
I
I
have
also
way too
enjoy
much fun with Happy Brock.
I also enjoy the Cowboy Brock and the Happy Brock who literally pissed himself with R-Truth.
Yeah. I liked Boombox Money in the Bank
Yeah,
Brock.
there
That
was that
was,
one as well.
that was fun. Too.
Um, as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling goes, I'm just trying to think.
So
Oh, I
so
don't know how.
while
I
you're
don't know how.
thinking, I got one off the top of my head.
Go on,
Within 1 year, either Vince McMahon will fall into line and we will never hear from him again, or
or
Vince McMahon will retire.
yeah, or another scandal will erupt, in which case Endeavor have to distance themselves from it.
Yep. Like I said, either Vince McMahon will fall into line or Vince McMahon will retire.
I can see
There
that as
is
well. I can see New Japan Pro Wrestling being fed up with Mercedes Moné after about 8 months.
okay.
The minute she loses her title, she'll be demanding rematches. I mean, I don't know what New Japan's policy is. But I know a lot of companies nowadays don't give automatic rematches, but the minute she loses that title and things don't go the way she wants, she'll be unhappy.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, not the first time she's done it. Damage Control will break up, not so much in the next year, but I can see them breaking up soon.
I don't see Dakota Kai and Io Sky breaking up, but I do see
Oh no, I
Bailey.
can't. Because they've already set that seed with EO becoming number one contender.
Yep. Um, let me see. I want to have another couple of predictions, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. So, Michael Fraser will admit his love for Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
You are dreaming with that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be public or private, but it is going to happen.
I can see Matt Cardona trying to get another 13 titles. Whether he accomplishes them or not will be a different story, but I can see him trying to do it again.
Um,
I know he's a bit of a way there already. I think he's got about 4 or 5. But
Kenny Omega will either be world heavyweight champ, or he will leave AEW.
I think this, as far as leaving for WWE, I think the Endeavor buyout has caused a lot of uncertainty. That's why we said that we can see MJF staying. I think
Yep,
Kenny Omega might leave, but if he leaves, he'll go back to New Japan or IWGP.
I
You're
can
not
see that.
WWE.
I can see that.
I was going to say I can see Bully Ray becoming world champion again, but I think Impact's got to. I will say one thing for Impact. I can see the Knockouts having another match exclusively for men. They've had Ultimate X. I forget what else they've had, but I can see another match that is usually male dominated. I can see that happening this year.
The other thing about Impact, I could see AEW opening up the Forbidden Door with Impact again, especially if it led up to New Japan or All Out or sorry, New Japan or All In, out of Wembley. I can see them opening up the Forbidden Door again.
This is definitely wishful thinking for me. I hope Impact comes over this year. They haven't done it for a long, long time, but my God, I miss those nights. I miss those nights where I just used to be so happy when I went to bed at Hilton in Wembley's Hilton, which is literally right next door to Wembley Arena where they used to have it. Oh, the amount of joys I used to have every time I came out of that. And who knows? And you used to see Impact wrestlers in the lobby as well when you were checking out. It's like, shit, I guess everyone does stay here.
Oh,
I'll tell you what.
easiest thing: Godrich, Ontario, Canada will not get a WWE, AEW, or Impact event.
Also, a guarantee: nowhere in the East Midlands will host anything WWE related. And bearing in mind,
Ooh.
Sheffield, I can't even remember the last time Nottingham and Sheffield had anything like that. They'll have live events, but as far as like Raw and SmackDown goes, East Midlands will never have it. It's usually gone to like Glasgow, Manchester, or London. I mean, SmackDown and Money in the Bank's coming from O2 this year.
Yep.
I will want to make another. I don't know if you want to call it wrestling or not. Co-op Live is opening in December. I can see WWE going there instead of the AO Arena in Manchester, which is formerly Manchester Arena, which has been the only arena in Manchester that's actually had WWE. Co-op Live is opening in December. I can see that taking over ownership of every single WWE pay-per-view or show that goes there.
The Miz will make my mother swoon, the likes of which my father has not been able to do in 42 years.
If I may quote a certain character from The Big Bang Theory, I think your mother's loins will heat up when she sees Mike the Miz Allen.
That's true, which is definitely going to happen this year.
I don't know if I might have said it. I don't know. When Roman Reigns loses the WWE titles, he will retire, and he will be part. He won't retire. He'll either retire or go part time to do movies.
He's already part time.
In that case, he'll go and do movies when he loses the titles. Then.
Yeah. Here's the other prediction I have. After Roman Reigns, you will never have another main event level heel on the level of Roman Reigns.
When Cena eventually retires, you will never have a WWE superstar on that God mode level.
Yep.
I can see Saraya winning a title in the next year. It's long overdue. She's got everything she needs for it. She's got the heel group behind her. There's no reason why she can't win a title. But the one thing I can guarantee is, hold on a minute, what was that word that Vince used to describe Ruby Soho?
That floozy!
Yep.
She was not floozy. She was the worst. Trying to get in between my love of Michael Fraser. How dare she?
I
can see her interrupting.
Yeah, but I do it for a reason, Vince. I can see Ruby Soho being kicked out of the Outcasts in the upcoming months.
Oh, and I predict that she will lose in AEW and then lose in Impact. And then she'll have to brag to be booked anywhere because she's such a floozy. So much so that she won't even be looked at, especially not by me. I think we got enough, quite frankly. I don't have any. I don't think I got any more off the top of my head.
I do want to say one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead, take it.
Jordynne Grace has recently won her first powerlifting event. I can see her taking up powerlifting events a lot more. I know she's scheduled to face Deonna Purrazzo. I hope to God she doesn't leave because she is the one Impact knockout I have wanted since we started B&D. I think she will. I think she'll take up more bodybuilding events, and Impact will become not so much a side venture because that's a bit disrespectful. But I think she'll do more powerlifting events than she will Impact. She'll still stay in the company, but I think once you have a knack for something new, you tend to divert all your energy to it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope she stays, but at the same time, she enjoys it. I hope she gets more in the powerlifting business. But oh yes, this is my personal one. I hope we get Jordynne Grace this year. We can leave Jonathan Gresham to another year, but Jordynne Grace this year.
On behalf of that, with all due respect to everybody, thank you so much for listening to us each and every day, especially those of you who have stayed on past our ramblings. If you want to talk to me, you can find me on www.deathpixie.ca. If you want to talk to me about voiceover opportunities or commission me for some of your own, www.deathpixie.ca is the best way to get a hold of me.
And as always, you can find me on Final Cut Official on Twitter, not Twitter, Instagram. I don't do Twitter
Final
anymore.
Cut Official on Twitter.
Yeah.
God, how long has that been since you
Final
posted
Cut
on
Official
that?
on Instagram. I do apologize. And you can also find me on YouTube on Final Cut Director's Cut Podcast. We would say Ben Walsh's, but we can't be bothered.
You can find him on the I Love Sky Blue fan site. He is Sky Blue Lover 00001. Don't take that name away from me, Gregory. Um, and you can find him there. So if you see him there, make sure to engage with him because he loves that stuff, especially when it comes to Sky Blue. So thank you all so much for listening to us. Hopefully Ben is back next week. In the meantime, though, stay frosty, my friends, and enjoy the next year of wrestling. Because regardless of whether or not our predictions are going to come true, the one thing we can tell you is that wrestling is perfectly unpredictable. Thank you so much for listening.
Who knows?